Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 3 of the Digital Dungeon Master podcast. And today I have a very special guest for you, which is none other than the famous Chris Lindsay from Wizards of the Coast. So welcome, Chris. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks,
Dave. Thanks for having
so
me.
Formal all of a sudden, huh? Holy cow. So this is our second attempt with the podcast because the first one had a technical glitch on my end with a massive loop echo. So thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it.
The Grand Canyon of echoes, man.
We were. It was like that little box that you're in, magnified by about 10. I love those posters, by the way, Chris. Those are good. All the 5e art, good stuff.
Oh, yeah. This actually isn't 5e art. Most of this behind me are pictures of goblins from various magic sets.
Are they really?
Yep.
I could have swore the top left-hand behind you on your right. I thought that was in the player's handbook. Your other right. There you go.
Nope. Our goblins are a different color than these. These are green goblins, and they are definitely magic goblins. Our goblins tend to be brownish to orange or so.
Yeah. I love the new kobolds. I mean, I like the new kobolds too, but the goblins are awesome in 5e.
Yep.
Yeah. They're really good.
Our goblins have a very distinctive look, and this is not it.
They definitely don't have the big mouth, the massive mouth with all of the needle-like teeth. So,
yeah, no, totally different.
Yeah, well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on again, and sorry about that. Sorry about that first technical glitch we had there.
No worries.
All right. So, Chris, I've got quite a few questions for you. And the first, everybody wants to know, what do you do as Chris Lindsay on a day-to-day basis at the Wizards of the Coast office?
Well, I have 4 distinct hats that I wear here. The first and foremost of those is I am the product manager for Dungeons & Dragons tabletop role-playing game, which basically means that everything that needs to happen in order to get a book out the door, besides actually writing the words and getting the art together that go into the book, is my responsibility. So whether it's dealing with legal or sales or finance or whatever the case may be, I do all of that stuff, all the business stuff, right? My second hat really is I am the grand poobah, the head of, or whatever you want to call it, of the D&D Inventors League. And I work with 6 fantastic admins who help facilitate organized play for Dungeons & Dragons. So that is a massive undertaking pretty much constantly. And so I rely a lot on their assistance for that. In addition to that, my third hat would be I'm the inventor of the Dungeon Masters Guild and the architect of that from a business standpoint anyways. And I continue to work with the fine folks at One Bookshelf to keep that going as well. And we're looking at doing some exciting new things in the future that we'll discuss later, not necessarily in this podcast, but later on down the line. The last thing I'm responsible for, and definitely not the least, is we have a number of digital partners out there, such as Smiteworks, who make Fantasy Grounds and Roll20, and so forth. And we work with them, because they have their own digital tables online, and we work with them. I'm responsible as the primary point of contact with those companies here at Wizards of the Coast.
Wow, you got a lot going on, Chris.
Yeah, it's a busy day every day.
Hey, it's job security, man. That's a good thing. So a little bit about Inventors League. We'll talk about some Inventors League stuff.
Sure.
Now, I've got a lot of questions about, not a bunch, but I've got a few. The first question is, are there going to be any changes in the future with Inventors League to maybe kind of sprucing up the PDF, from a digital standpoint? Is there going to be something like art added in? Maybe art from maybe the core PDFs that this season is coming from. Maybe art from Yawning Portal, from the Yawning Portal book. Maybe is there going to be any kind of maps like cartography changes with Adventures League, because it is a huge online presence now, playing D&D online. Because I've got a lot of players that ask, is there going to be any kind of cartography changes? And plus other DMs that I talk with. We're all kind of curious about that. But we love Adventures League. We love the adventures. We love how the seasons of Adventures League correspond with the current adventure setting that's out. But is there going to be anything else to kind of maybe evolve Adventures League? Because it seems like it's kind of stayed the same for the first 5 or 6 years now. Well, seasons, sure. I guess you could call them.
So the Inventors League is going to see a considerable amount of change. First off, as an organization, it was originally maintained and managed by our organized play team here at Wizards of the Coast, but we did a reorg, and everybody who works on Dungeons and Dragons is in a single studio inside the building. We all work together now on a single team under a single director, and so with that, the responsibilities for the Adventures League came to me to manage. That was the one big change. So since I got it, and since I have much closer ties to working directly with the brand itself than the folks at Organized Play had, we're looking at basically functionally changing how we manage our stories. Up to this point, the stories for the Adventures League content have run parallel to the stories that occur in the for sale products. Going forward, and we'll see it very clearly in this upcoming season, starting in the fall. The content will basically magnify, expand, and enhance what's in the for sale product rather than running parallel to it. So basically, it's only going to make the experience of playing in that adventure bigger and better, right?
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
So now, with regards to your initial question, having to do with will we be changing the formatting of the actual adventures themselves, we are looking at doing that. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to that, because that's quite a bit of work. But it is a goal to, at some point, incorporate art from the actual adventure content and so forth that we're releasing our own Adventures League content from, as well as making sure that the maps are usable regardless of whatever format you're in. Now, the maps thing is something that we've been doing more and more of. We have one of our admins, he's responsible for content. His name is Travis Woodall, and he works with Claire Hoffman. They were responsible for the content management for the Adventures League. Travis is a budding cartographer. He's fantastic. He's been doing a lot of the maps, and one of the things that he is doing more going forward is basically creating versions of the maps that are larger, that we can do things like print out into a tactical grid whenever we need to do that, or Dungeon Masters can do that. And he's also been working really hard to make them usable online when people want to play on Fantasy Grounds or Roll20 or any of those other tabletops. So awesome. We'll continue to do that as well. So look forward to that, more of that in the future. Now, as for the community, there's a large community of folks who play Adventures League online. There's an even larger community of folks we found that are playing Adventures League around the table, or in their local hobby stores, or at conventions, or in libraries, and all kinds of places, right? Adventures League is basically for anybody who wants to get together, whether it's online or in person, in whatever location they want to get together in, to play Dungeons and Dragons and feel like they are a part of something much larger than themselves. It's a shared world campaign, so they all get to basically have that common experience, which we think is extremely fun and valuable.
Well, it's a unique thing about it, because you can take your character from A game and go to B game and just jump right in and not have any, problems at all as long as you have a valid log sheet, which I think is great.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
to just kind of chip in on what you were talking about, having you guys under one house, under one roof, I think that would be better anyway to keep everybody probably on the same page too with projects. I mean, it sounds like that would probably be a good thing that's happening because you guys all know what's going on and timetables and such. So
yeah, it's definitely brought us all together, and we're a much more tightly knit unit. From a business perspective, from an interpersonal getting things done perspective, we've all become one big family, as it were. And you definitely feel that when you're with us. We all kind of it's kind of like being in a band, right? We jam, right? One person starts playing and the other person gets it, and we just kind of play stuff that complements with each other, and so. Now we jam together very well as a group of people who want to make awesome Dungeons and Dragons products.
Yeah. And and I will a little edgy here, but I can tell a big difference in quality between the original settings that came out for 5e, the Tyranny of Dragons series and Princes of Apocalypse. I can tell a huge quality difference when you guys start making them. Starting with Curse of Strahd and then with Storm King Sunder. There's a huge difference. And so it's good that you guys are doing this in-house now. Are you guys going to continue to do it that way, or are you going to contract these out?
We tried the studio model, and where we contract a project out to en masse to a single group of folks, like a company like the Kobold Press and the Green Ronin and so forth. And first of all, to be fair, those companies are all very, very good at what they do.
Oh, absolutely. I love all those companies.
But we really felt like we needed to be more hands-on with the actual project. So we brought the management of the project back inside the building, and we still heavily use freelancers to help us out with getting that work done.
Yeah.
And we have some fantastic freelance folks out there who are great designers and developers in their own right, and we work with them. As far as managing the actual content itself, we've taken a more hands-on approach to it, and I think that really shows in the work itself.
Yeah, I could definitely tell, and that's why I brought it up. I mean, it's good that you guys did bring those back in house, because as a dungeon master, I could tell a huge difference there.
Sure.
So a little bit more about Adventures League. What's up with no Aarakocras? Why can the Aarakocra not be played?
So,
I knew you would appreciate that question, Chris.
No Aarakocras. Okay, so here's the deal. Giving a first level character... Actually, let me back up for a second. There is a point in your game which traditionally starts around 5th level, where the Dungeon Master, and in this case our adventure writers, now have to ask themselves the question, whenever they're designing a challenge or something, what if the characters can fly, right?
Yeah.
And that complicates a lot of things by a significant magnitude. Now, when you push that timetable all the way back to 1st level, then you have authors losing hair and breaking down in distress, and it's just too much. It's just so the idea of allowing somebody to play an Aarakocra from 1st level, any character that can fly, actually, Aarakocras, winged tieflings, whatever, it makes things more complicated than we want it to be. And what we really want is that 1st to 4th level experience to be friendly not only to new players, but to new dungeon masters. And if you introduce the idea of flying too early into the game, new dungeon masters can become overwhelmed at that point. And
pulling hair out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so we really want to encourage our new dungeon masters to learn and grow as they play, and to not be intimidated by the types of things that their characters can do. And removing the ability to fly from 1st to 4th level is one of those things we just felt was necessary. Of course, if I were going to run a home game, as an experienced dungeon master, sure, I might allow somebody to play an Aarakocra or a winged tiefling or something like that, because I know I can handle it, because I've been DMing for 30 some odd years, right? But I would never want to put that on a new dungeon master, and that's chiefly why we have kind of held back on those.
You could put in parentheses beside the Aarakocra, what goes up must come down, though. I mean,
you could, but it's just easier to, because there's so many other options available, to just say, hey, you know what, this one we're going to hold back.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the same reason with the Death Domain Cleric and the Oathbreaker Paladin as well, right? You wanted to keep everything from a neutral to good standpoint, maybe? Mostly,
yeah. And those two particular classes, I'll be a little bit selfish when I say I want to be the one playing those characters as the dungeon master. I don't want my players playing them. Yeah. I gotta have something fun for me. So
yeah, it can also hurt the group makeup as well if somebody's playing a Death Domain Cleric, and if they're really going to play a chaotic evil type of character in a group of all. Let's face it, most people play a neutral type of character, or maybe a chaotic neutral type of character. So I could see to where that could possibly hurt the group. And it's all about cooperation Adventures League anyway. That's one of the themes that's in the the players portion of Adventures League. So I can see that.
There are a handful of certs out there, character origin certs, that allow folks to play a Death Domain Cleric, but those certs are very specific insofar as those characters are worshippers of Kelemvor, who is a lawful neutral deity who would just as soon destroy all undead in the Forgotten Realms as not. He does not like undead. He is really more of a caretaker. He's very neutral and very organized, so characters who play the lawful neutral, if they have that cert anyway, so lawful neutral Death Domain Cleric tend to get along fine actually in groups. It's just all the other folks out there who want to do crazy stuff. We can't have that.
Yeah, that's all good to know about the new changes coming up here in you said in 2018 or so with the new Adventures League stuff. That's good.
We're gonna have some fantastic stuff coming up. We're gonna have changes as a direct result of some of the material we're gonna be putting out in books later on this year that we're gonna make, that are gonna simplify things and make it much easier on the players and the dungeon masters to maintain those adventure logs you were referring to, and still allow people to have fun and play the characters they want to play in game.
Nice. Very nice. So with these changes that are coming up next year, are there going to be any changes for being able to spend downtime days and maybe give a little bit more selection to spending your gold, except for in maybe basic equipment and healing potions? Because that's one thing from a DM. That's one thing that my players ask me when we're doing the official stuff. Usually when I also have a game that we just keep the characters in our game, and then I allow the Aarakocra and stuff like that. But when I'm running the official stuff, most of the players ask me, is there going to be any kind of Adventures League store that I could go into, maybe like the Adventurer's Vault from 4th edition, and I could go in and buy magic items or anything like that?
Oh my gosh, you asked me that question last time too, and it makes me laugh every time I hear that question.
But it's a good question, though. I mean, it really is.
It is a great question. We are not going to open up a magic item store per se. Mm-hmm. That is not something that I think is ever going to happen on my watch. That said, we are going to make sure that folks have access to magic items in a way that works with the story and in the game for Adventures League, so that they have an option to do and possess things that are cool. Now, as far as changes to how we do downtime and all of that other stuff, I'm going to say maybe more to come.
Oh, but not here on the podcast.
But not on the podcast. No. We have more to come later on about what types of cool things we're going to do. In point of fact, if folks haven't noticed it already, we have put up an announcement that on June 2nd and 3rd, we here on the D&D team are going to be doing our stream of Annihilation. And if you haven't seen that, it's going to be fantastic. Check out our website for that announcement. It's there right now. And we are going to have 2 packed days, I think 10 hours each day, where we're going to stream non-stop, completely constant content from a secret location here in the Seattle area. And it's going to have all of these celebrities and so forth that love to play D&D, a lot of them coming up and joining us, and we're going to have games and interviews and announcements and all kinds of fun stuff going on over the few days. It's going to be a really big deal. It's going to be something that folks definitely want to watch. It's all going to be streamed on Twitch. And we're going to have a lot of fun. I myself am going to be DMing a game, and I'll be participating in a couple of the interviews. So
nice.
we'll do some fun stuff those 2 days. It's going to be a blast. So when I say we have made an announcement for our announcements. Our announcements are actually going to be this magnificent event that we're putting on, and
nice.
We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast.
I didn't get an invitation, Chris. No.
Well, that's funny because Doug is coming.
Too good. Too good. I do like what you were also talking about Adventures League, where now instead of running parallel with each campaign setting that's out, these are basically going to be maybe little side adventures that you can plug into the standard campaign setting for whatever's out at the current time, right?
They're basically going to fill out and flesh out and enhance the story, like in a way that you would do if you were running this at home. So if I were running a new adventure at home, I would probably look for ways that I can maybe do a little bit of design work on my own and kind of make some cool little side events that happen while they're playing through the regular adventure, right?
Yeah.
The fine folks at the Inventors League, my admins and the authors that we work with, are all brainstorming like feverishly right now on the next season, and we're going to do it for you. We're going to create those little side encounters and events and stuff for you to play in, and then we're going to take that adventure when you get to the end of it, and we're going to extend it all the way up to 20th level so that you can play your character from first to 20th level in the Adventures League, right? How often do you get that opportunity? It's going to be an absolutely awesome experience.
Yeah, because I notice a lot of content jumps around in Adventures League. You'll have some 1 to 4 content, and then you'll have 5 to 10, and it's just really, really confusing to a lot of players because they're like, "Hey, I don't have any level 11 characters. What do I do?" I just tell them they're out of luck. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. If you stay inside the season and you start with the adventure, the published adventure, and you add on the additional content as it comes out, you should be able to very easily, over the course of the entire season, which is going to be a long season, by the way. I believe this next season is going to last through May of 2018. So there'll be plenty to play, and it'll be an extremely robust experience.
That's after Yawning Portal, right?
Yes.
Oh, I can't wait for that, Chris. I can't wait because I did the closed testing on that, and to change topics from Adventures League. We'll talk about the closed testing because I've actually had quite a few people ask how they can get into closed testing. Now, is this something that is open to the public, or is it actually labeled as closed testing and invitation only?
Basically, it is currently closed, like you said. We aren't adding any more folks to that group. We already have a very healthy pool of testers. Now, that said, it would still behoove folks to pay attention to our website, and if at some point in the future, we have cycled through playtesters, because folks drift away for personal reasons and they get busy with real life and stuff like that, right? Then we might put out a quick call for, hey, you want to get involved with some playtesting and gather up a few more, and then we'll close it down again. But that group is a finite amount. It's a very small amount, particularly in comparison to folks participating in the public playtesting. So now that said, even though it's really challenging to get into that really small group of insiders, we will continue as we develop products to put out articles through the Unearthed Arcana column, and those have surveys that come along with them. That is a public playtest.
Yeah.
That it really is. If people want to get involved, they can download that material, play with it, and then before the deadline, go in and fill out that survey and give us their feedback. We pay very, very close attention, just as much attention to the feedback we get from those surveys as we do from our insiders. So I encourage anybody, and anybody can do it, really, to just go in and download that material and to be involved that way, at least to begin with.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've really been impressed with you guys with Dungeons & Dragons 5e. I mean, I have not seen this in any of the prior editions, to where there are so many surveys out to the public, and it's like you guys really do care what is going on. Yeah, I mean, it is totally, I could tell a difference. I've never seen this, like I said, in any of the other editions.
Yeah, previously we've given the impression that we kind of live up here in a little ivory tower and do whatever it is that we want to, but we really want to reverse that and let people know that we really do care, and there is a massive community of Dungeons & Dragons fans, enthusiasts, players, DMs out there, and we're just part of that community. We just happen to be the ones kind of leading the charge, but we want to be with the group. We want to be there, playing the games, getting down and dirty with everybody else, having a great time. We love going out to shows and playing with everybody. We're fans of the game just as much as everybody else is, even in some cases even more so. So it's just we want to keep the tie strong between ourselves and the rest of the community, which we like to think of ourselves as being part of.
No, absolutely. And I think that's going to give the 5th edition a very long longevity of life. I mean, this is probably, I've read, you have #1 Amazon bestseller. I mean, you've been #1 all over the place. I mean, honestly, Chris, I could see 5th edition, and I'm going out on a limb here by saying this, I could see 2E life out of this edition. I really could. I could see this thing lasting as long as 2nd edition lasted, which was a hell of a long time.
Everybody is having a fantastic time, and we just want to keep that going.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's working for you, why change it? I've had a few people ask me on the comment boards and in my live Twitch channel. They're like, "Hey, when is the new Dungeons & Dragons edition coming out?" I'm like, "Dude, 5th edition is still really new. It's only a couple of years old."
Oh, yeah.
And then when I say, "Hey, I could really see this life of 15 years for 5e," some people think I'm crazy for saying that, to be honest. They really do. and I'm just laughing at them, and I'm like, well, in 15 years when this edition's still around, I'll say I told you so. There are no plans for a new edition at this point. We are having way too much fun playing with this one, and the cadence of products that we have coming out, we definitely have lots of room to play still. So you've got an entire 3,000-mile wide Forgotten Realms. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Actually. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That's just it's huge. So
so about D&D miles to fade. And then you go from there.
Yeah. It is a pretty wickedly huge map. So about D&D Beyond, you guys just announced probably about a month ago that you've got this new D&D Beyond coming out. Looks like a digital format.
Yep.
So can you give us a little bit of information about
something that we're making specifically? We are working with the fantastic folks at Curse, and they are building D&D Beyond. They have, for those folks in the digital gaming space who are familiar with Curse, through their affiliations with other companies like Blizzard and so forth, know that they're serious, and they're super excited to work with us, and we're just as excited to work with them. And I can't wait to see what the product looks like when they're fully done with it. They're in beta right now. If you're not involved with the beta, I'd encourage you to go to their website at dndbeyond.com and get involved. And it's exciting to see the tools that they are building and to know what they're planning on going forward. I'm enjoying every step of that, and I enjoy working specifically with their team. They're fantastic people.
I've been tinkering around with it, Chris, and I'll for early stages, I'm pretty impressed with it. Yep. I mean, it's got a few little things but like I said, it's in its infancy, and I think it's going to be a good thing. Now, you guys had Project Morningstar also when 5e launched back in 2014 or whatever it was. Now, is this going to, because obviously Operation Morningstar didn't work out. I'm not sure what the details were on that, because it was just all of a sudden, I mean, the plug was pulled, beta was going on, and then all of a sudden one day it was just, the website was down, and a statement came out from you guys saying, we're no longer working with this company doing Project Morningstar. And it was a nice application. It really was.
Sure.
But I see a lot of that in the new D&D Beyond, which is a good thing. So I'm sure you probably can't talk about why Morningstar probably is not around anymore, but I know there was a huge backlash with the Kickstarter that they had, that they wanted this astronomical amount of money to get this thing going, although it was already running. So, but D&D Beyond, I mean, is there going to be full supplement supported, with, like, say, the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, the Dungeon Master's Guide? Is this going to be a replacement for Wizards of the Coast selling PDFs? Because I know you guys don't like to do the PDFs, and is this going to basically replace it, maybe in like a digital format?
I don't know that it would replace PDFs. I believe that the D&D Beyond tools are going to be more interactive, far more interactive than what you could ever possibly get with a PDF, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. If you're looking to just read something, a book is probably better. But if you want something that helps you to manage your characters or to manage your campaign or your game, I think D&D Beyond is going to be a tool that you would want to use, specifically when you're playing around a tabletop, right? Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you're playing online on, a digital tabletop like Fantasy Grounds, you're going to use those tools. Or if you're playing on Roll20, you're going to use those tools. But when you're playing around a table, D&D Beyond is going to be that suite of tools that will make that will take basically get the rules out of your way so that you can just have fun and play the game.
Yeah. So is this going to have a subscription price plan like the D&D Insider has, or?
We are still working with the folks at Curse on that sort of thing, so we really can't discuss that at this point.
How about integration? Because I know Curse is all about integration and mods and stuff on other games like World of Warcraft. Are you going to have any kind of integration for, say, for Fantasy Grounds or maybe Roll20 or anything like that? I see you smiling.
Anything is possible. Yeah. Anything is possible.
I got you.
But we really just want to help them to get the base application out first, and then we'll see what we can do to help them expand beyond that. D&D Beyond.
I got you. So coy with me, Chris Lindsay.
We would certainly encourage them to continue to try and be as successful as they can be.
DM's Guild. Let's move on to DM's Guild. I am interested, though, in D&D Beyond. It looks good from what I've seen so far. I'm really impressed with it. And I think, like you said, I think it'll help not only from a player standpoint, but a universal standpoint with DMs as well. So
okay, so DM's Guild.
DM's Guild, Chris. So
What do you want to know?
you said that this is your baby. You said this is this is what. So the whole concept, the whole idea, everything was brought up by you, huh?
I was basically in 2010 when I was still a fresh-faced member of the D&D brand team. I was.
Oh, the glory days of 4th edition. I need to throw that in there, by the way.
Yep, I was tasked with becoming an expert on basically creative communities. At the time, it was specifically having to do and become an expert on like the OGL, right, mm-hmm. and the system reference document, and the game system license, right, that we had for 3rd and 4th edition, and to really explore those and see what we can do to take that type of idea to the next level and to do something far more exciting with it than just, allow other people to make content wherever they happen to be. And so I put together a proposition for building a creative community at that point that not only could take advantage of the types of things that are represented by the OGL, but also would allow them to use our IP or IP of ours that we designated anyways as being available for use, and allow them to play with our toys in a
legal way, basically.
In a very legal way,
yeah.
Yep, and in a defined marketplace, and to make that experience, the business end of that experience, as easy as possible, so you don't have to start your own business to publish something for Dungeons and Dragons. All you have to do is just get involved and pull down there's some tools that are easy to use, some templates and free art and maps and stuff online, or you can make your own art and maps and create something that you can really be proud of and publish it in a marketplace called the Dungeon Masters Guild. And I'm really excited. We had no idea what the Dungeon Masters Guild was going to do when we opened it up to the public to play in, and it just took off like a rocket and exploded. And now I'm trying to get in front of that, in front of that train, and figure out what the next cool thing is we're going to do with the Dungeon Masters Guild. And we have a few ideas, many of which I will be discussing at shows like Origins and so forth coming up. I'll be having some of those conversations about, hey, here are some cool things that you can expect to be able to participate in vis-a-vis the Dungeon Masters Guild here in the future, and I'm really excited to unveil those types of things.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how popular DM's Guild was from the start. I mean, there's just tens of thousands of items on the DM's Guild. Now,
there's a lot.
I've seen, and you can pay your own price. I've seen, 0 price points. You pay what you want. Now, is there going to be, I will say this, that, with you being able to just put anything up there, is there going to be anything implemented in the future to where there's going to be some kind of maybe like a slight regulation, or maybe like maybe a check before it actually gets officially put onto the DM's Guild? Because I've seen some stuff on there that would probably be considered questionable for put up there, for being put up there.
There's so many products being put up on the Dungeon Masters Guild, it's impossible for us to check every single one before it goes up there. And to be fair, we're not the ones managing that marketplace. It's being managed by the fine folks at One Bookshelf, who also do DriveThruRPG, and it's just too much for them or us to have a look at every single product. Now that said, we very much rely on our community to kind of police the site for itself, right? The site is built as an opportunity for community creators in the community to get involved, and it's been really encouraging and gratifying to me to see how the members of the community who are actively participating in the Dungeon Masters Guild want to keep their play space nice. And so we get a lot of reports of things that have been put up there, and we check them out. And in some cases, unfortunately, we've had to pull some content down But for the most part, it's it's easy enough to ask whoever the creator was to make a few changes to make the content appropriate for the Dungeon Masters Guild, and then we put it right back up again, and then people can continue to enjoy it. So
very nice. So you talk about all of this. You have the free licensing art and stuff like that. Now, what can you put up on the DM's Guild? Because I've had a lot of people asking me, can I put my own content on there? Can I say the word Forgotten Realms? Can I say the name Drizzt Do'Urden? Can I say Bruenor Battlehammer? Can I put them in my modules? There's a lot of questions that people ask, and I know you guys have a FAQ as well. So
yeah, basically, if it exists in the Forgotten Realms, which by the way includes such awesome places as Mastika and Al-Qadim, right? And the Horde, Karatur, all part of the Forgotten Realms. Mm-hmm. As long as it exists as intellectual property in any of those locations or the main Forgotten Realms proper, right? You can absolutely play with it. Now, that said, if you're playing with it, like if you put Drizzt in your adventure, just remember that nothing that goes up on the Dungeon Masters Guild is actual canon unless we find it and we decide to want to make it canon, because we think it's so absolutely cool. So it basically amounts to fan fiction, or a version of fan fiction where it's gaming content instead of just fiction itself. But yeah, absolutely, you can totally play with that stuff and do fun things. And if you do something really cool, we might be paying attention. Now, I will say for folks out there who are curious how they can get the attention of the folks here at Wizards of the Coast on the D&D team for their content, my only advice I can give you, the strongest bit of advice I should say I could give you is, if you are not only playing with our stuff, but if you are specifically playing with the themes and storylines and so forth that we are published in at that time. So, for example, when we published Storm King's Thunder, if you published some stuff that had to do with giants that you might be able to play in addition to Storm King's Thunder with that's the stuff we're really looking out for. And we pay attention to the authors who are doing that. Also, if you manage to be financially successful in the Dungeon Masters Guild, like if you get a lot of people looking at your stuff, I tend to keep an eye out for that sort of thing as well, to see who is popular in the community and to see why and what kind of content they're creating. And we have featured a number of those folks in our publication of Dragon Plus, the app. So
very nice.
It's fun.
That's something else that I was going to bring up was, the Dragon app. I guess it would be the successor to the Dragon magazine, where it would be the PDF version. Yep. And I like you have the online version where you can look at it online on the website, and then, you have the app. Now, is there going to be anything like a Dungeon Plus coming up? Because that's sorely missed. I mean, let's admit it. Sure. A lot of people miss Dungeon magazine as well. And I was sad to see them go before 5e released, but I figured that, seeing that it is the year 2017, there's really not a lot of magazines anymore. I mean, not only in the RPG community, but overall. So, I mean, a lot of the famous magazines are now gone because they're just not purchased anymore. So, could we see something like a Dungeon Plus coming up maybe in the future?
I don't know if it will be, strictly speaking, Dungeon Plus, although we have, with the current release of Tales from the Yawning Portal, it has become clear to us that there is a demand for some amount, that is unclear to us at this point, but some amount of short adventure content in that vein. And so we've taken a step back and we are looking at that. And like everything else with 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, we want to make sure we're doing it right. We don't want to waste a lot of time working on something that people aren't going to enjoy. So, but I can say that type of thing is something that we are definitely looking into. What form it will actually take when we decide to release it in the future has yet to be determined. Whether that's going to be like a Dungeon Plus or something else, we don't know yet.
All right. I like that, though. You know, there is a huge call for small adventures, you know, and even with the Dungeon Plus, I mean, an idea would be even maybe showcasing some of the stuff on the DM's Guild. So, I mean, that could be a good thing. Sure. So it's kind of, now that we've talked about all the good stuff that you do at Wizards of the Coast, let's kind of talk a little bit, let's get a little bit more personal with Chris and Lindsay.
Sure.
Now, how in the heck did you get into RPG games? How did Chris get into these games?
I was drugged kicking and screaming into my first D&D game when I was about 12 or 13, which was a long time ago.
About as long as me, probably. I think you got me beat by a couple years, though.
Probably. My little brother, who is actually, let me addendamize that, saying he's only a year younger than me, was going to play this new game, or new to him anyways, with his friends, and they wanted another player. And so they asked me to come and play with them, and I did not want to play, but they talked me into it. And so I went and played, and 3 months later, after that, they all kind of, drifted off, and I was still looking for people to play with. I was hooked from the very beginning. Yeah. So, but I mean, from there, I played all the way through high school. I played through, college, played a bunch of other games. I played all games from all different types of companies, from World of Darkness to Cyberpunk 2020 to Rifts to Savage Worlds, all kinds of stuff. And Dungeons and Dragons has always been my first love, as it were, when it comes to tabletop role-playing games. I got heavily involved in the RPGA around 2nd edition, and played in a lot of Living City adventures, which is the predecessor to our Inventors League.
Yeah.
And that kind of shifted into Living Grayhawk. When we shifted into Living Grayhawk, I became active as an author of adventures and so forth. And I got to know some of the people who work behind the scenes, and I got an opportunity to join the organized play team as a contractor, which I did for about a year and a half, editing Living Grayhawk adventures, and that was very much fun. I worked with Stephen McFarlane. He's a fantastic game designer in his own right, and we crunched through that content, and there was like literally thousands and thousands and thousands of pages daily, as we were, cleaning it up and getting it ready for publication for the RPGA. After that contract ended, I was invited. I applied for a job in customer service at Wizards because I was unemployed at the time, and I got the job. And I came in and I worked my way up through customer service, became a supervisor, and then a training manager because I have an education background. After I'd done that for quite a while, I looked to other places in Wizards of the Coast, and that was when I got the opportunity to kind of join the brand team, the D&D. And it's been an absolute blast, a total. I mean, I can't even describe it. It's been really fun to be working directly with my favorite game ever. So, and I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy looking out for other fans like myself, and making sure that the experience we're providing is just as cool as it can be. Because if it's not cool enough, if I don't think it's cool, we talk about it, and we work through it, and we try to find ways to enhance the awesome before we put it out there. Yeah. So,
I still have my RPGA card. Remember those? I still have my RPGA card, man. Oh my gosh. Hearing those letters, man, it brings back a lot of memories. I did go to, we had a few cons in Orlando that were RPGA related, and it was fun, man. It was good times. The Living Grayhawk. I bet you that was a monumental task to go through all of that data and all that information.
It was a ton of adventures. I got to the point where, with the 3rd edition rules, where I could quote verbatim from pretty much anywhere in the book, tell you the book page number, column, paragraph of where that is. You'd be hard pressed to challenge me there. Of course, since then I've completely forgotten it all. I have a finite amount of like random access memory going on in here. I've had to expunge some of that to get new stuff.
So when are we going to see a 5e living world coming up, Chris?
That's what Inventors League is all about. That's what That's it, right? Adventures League is our living campaign, and we don't use the word living anymore, because living implies indefinite. Nothing is indefinite, as we have learned, but we have no interest in closing it down anytime soon or in changing over to something else at this point. So we are totally playing. D&D Adventures League is the love child of the RPGA, as it were. And
I meant how are having us fill out forms and sending them back to you so you could go through them and stuff. That's what I was just kind of trolling you with that question. I figured that would probably have been the answer. So
that's such an old world way of doing things. We have these things called computers, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. There's no more sending things in those big yellow manila envelopes, and you have to wait for them to get back, and then you send them back and play tag that way.
If somebody sent me one, I would probably frame it. I would probably, because that would be something. First, you'd have to find one.
Yeah.
Then you have to be able to fill it out in a way that's legible, so the paper doesn't crumble beneath your fingertips. So,
I think that's what I'll have you guys start doing on Sunday nights. Maybe I'll start mailing you guys out questionnaires in the Sunday night game.
Sure.
No, actually, I'll pass. That'll be way too much work. So what is your favorite setting? Well, we know that D&D is definitely your favorite game. I mean, what are some of your other favorite games out there?
There are a ton of other games I really enjoy. I really enjoy Shadow of the Demon Lord. Rob Schwab has done a fantastic job with that. It's just such a fun game. It is definitely for adults, though. It's not for kids.
Yeah, I will say that, yeah.
And I also have enjoyed playing some Savage Worlds. Particularly, we played in the Rift setting, and we've also played a Savage Worlds version of, oh my dear Lord, what was that game? I don't remember right now, but it was fun. We played Rift's Savage Worlds and Slay. That was it. Savage Worlds Slay Industries.
Okay. Oh,
which is just a blast. We had a gigantic murder ball game, which is like rollerball only with more spikes and
more blood.
Yeah, lots more blood, and we did that game over the New Year this last year, and oh my gosh, it was so hilarious. Nothing went right. So, but inside D&D, I have a ton. I like almost all of the settings equally, but a couple in particular I have a special place in my heart for. I love the realms, of course. There is always going to be a special place in my heart for the realms. But I also very much love Planescape. I love playing Al-Qadim. I remember when we first ran our first Al-Qadim campaign, we would, rather than sitting around a table, we would sit around a large Persian rug on pillows and serve each other coffee and tell stories. Nice. It was awesome. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And did I say Planescape already? I love Planescape.
Planescape. Planescape was good. The new video game was pretty good by Numenera, the new Planescape kind of knockoff that they have. That's pretty good. Those
are the ones that I really have enjoyed playing. But I also very much love Grayhawk. I love Mystara is cool. Hollow World. Mm-hmm. Even Red Steel was kind of cool when we played that for a little while.
Wow, right? I haven't heard that in a long time. Holy cow.
Right, or Birthright, right?
Birthright.
It's really fun. So all kinds of cool stuff out there. But those are my special ones.
I think Savage Worlds is a very underrated game.
Savage Worlds is well done.
It is a great game.
Put that together, yes. I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
It covers everything from social encounters in detail to chases in detail.
Yeah,
I like it. It makes a lot of sense to me, because I had the upside down lampshade that's on a dog. If it didn't say Wizards of the Coast, or if it didn't say Dungeons and Dragons, I thought it stunk.
Right.
But within the last 6 years of me, this whole streaming thing fell into my lap per se. I ventured out, and now, there's so many good games out there that I had no clue that ever existed because all I played was D&D. But Savage Worlds is probably my favorite, along with I love Shadow the Demon Lord. The only thing about Shadow the Demon Lord, he's got to slow down with putting stuff out. I mean, because there is literally, it is expensive as hell to play Shadow the Demon Lord. He's got content coming out, and if you followed, which I'm sure you do, there's content coming out every week for that game.
I am not certain that Rob sleeps. I don't think he's capable of doing it.
He's a machine.
He is absolutely got to take a break.
Yeah. I think there's about 70 or so PDFs out for Shadow the Demon Lord. I like it. It's very dark and gritty. It's just like it's advertised in the first paragraph in the core book.
Oh, yeah.
So, and
I'm excited for the one they're coming out with, this Shadow the Demon Lord Freeport thing, right?
Yeah. With Green Run On, yeah.
Bring it, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be good. I as a kid, we started in Grayhawk, and we used to port back and forth from Grayhawk to Mystara, and then we got into the whole Hollow World thing, and I loved Hollow World. That was probably my favorite setting as a kid growing up, was Hollow World within the D&D world.
Any fascist dictators writing?
or Roman legionnaires walking around. It was, there were the themes, or Aztecs or Mayans and Incas. The themes in Hollow World was it was ingenious. It really was.
It was insane.
It was awesome. It was great. But I also like the Nintervale from 4th edition, the default setting. The Nintervale is awesome. You got the Forgotten Realms, which is thousands of miles, and the Nintervale is a very short 350 by 250, 350 miles by 250 miles, and it's so jam-packed. And, it was done for the little bit of time that it was around, it was put together so nicely. And sure. I about cried when you guys announced at Gen Con all of the... there was a bunch of stuff coming out for the Nintervale, and then all of a sudden the plug was pulled on them, and D&D Next was announced. I was so bummed out that those Gazetteers never came out. So,
yeah. Well, Nintervale was sort of an acquired taste. Not everybody enjoyed it nearly as much as you did, Dave.
just because it was 4th edition, which is a shame, by the way. It is a beautiful game.
Sure, absolutely.
It is a beautiful game.
There was a board game that was made, by the way, that was set kind of like in that Nintervale setting.
Yeah.
Conquest of Narath, which was a fantastically put together Risk style game with a dungeon delving aspect to it that I enjoyed the heck out of.
Yeah. Plus, there was the old chainmail / 3.5 / 4th edition miniature game that lasted for a long time. That was a fun thing too.
Totally.
But I did like that. Those are pretty much my favorite settings.
Right on.
But so what are you playing currently? Well, besides the game that I'm running on Sunday nights, what other games are you playing?
Oh,
any board games? Any Magic? Anything like that?
I play a little bit of Magic. I'm a super casual Magic player. I play an internal league here. It's fun. But for D&D, I am definitely playing in a couple of lunchtime games here in the building. Run by the fantastic stylings of Dungeon Masters, Sarah Kirchie and Justin Doney. In those games, it will come as no surprise to you that in Justin's game I am playing a dwarf.
I'm not laughing. I'm not saying anything.
I'm using the UA rules for the Artificer and playing around with that because Justin loves the Artificer. So that's been a hoot. In Sarah's game, I am definitely playing a gnome, and it's a different experience to see me playing a gnome. But I still get into all kinds of trouble. That's pretty much my MO, right? If people keep talking too long, I am looking for something to do. And if the conversation, and this is particularly true in Justin's game, they like to strategize a lot. They're very analytical. There's a lot of folks in there that work on technology. And so they like to draw you a diagram for what you want to do. Yeah, as soon as they start that conversation, I look at Justin and go, okay, I'm going that way, and I'm doing this thing. And they can either catch up or watch the explosions start.
Yeah, nice. Well, it's like in the Sunday game, you drinking a fire resistance potion with a Graven.
Oh my God.
And then catching the place on fire. It was great.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I drank the potion of fire resistance. I drank the really virulent alcoholic concoction that probably should never have been consumed by anybody. Yeah. And then after vomiting it all over myself, lit myself on fire as a distraction so that the rest of my team could spirit away with the person we were trying to get away from the monastery for whatever reason, and went rolling out of the building on fire, trying to put myself out. Yeah. I'm not sure Graven's ever going to have a full beard ever again.
Every time it starts to grow back, something else happens. And
I light myself on fire and put a fireball right at ground zero. I do whatever. Yeah,
Thank goodness thank goodness you're not evocation as well. So thank you for not having spell sculpt, and you can put everybody else in harm's way by casting your fireballs, because you do have an itchy trigger finger. I am going to say that. You do. You do have an itchy trigger finger.
Go sideways. I want to make them go sideways first.
I think I'm just going to create a house rule that gets rid of all your first and second level spell slots, and I think I'm just going to give you nothing but third and up. That's
nice.
It, man.
I'm sure they will love that. At least Doug has evasion. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he'll. Yeah, well, yeah, because you don't have spell sculpt, so he'll be eating it.
I do not have spell sculpt. For all the fireballs that he throws, Graven is an abjurer, so he's got that shield spell on tap and ready to go.
Well, you'll have to keep your first level spell slots because you do burn a bunch of those every session. So. So what is a memorable story that you have for as a player, and what is a memorable story that you have while you're dungeon mastering?
Wow, those are great questions. I
think I stumped you. Wow.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, and I had good answers for this last time. I just can't remember now what they were that I said. So as a dungeon master, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. I love keeping my players engaged. My style, at least, is I attempt as much as possible to exhibit a pulp Indiana Jones fast adventure with some exploration style of dungeon mastering. I will say that a favorite encounter of mine that I ran for a group here in the building was when, and this was during the playtest for 5th edition, the party were chasing somebody down a street, and they were chasing them, and they chased them around a corner and down a dark alleyway, and when they got to the other end of the dark alleyway, just on the other side of it, there was a great big opening, like it was between a whole bunch of buildings. Only it turned out that once they had run into that area, the big opening, and they looked around, there were it was like a mini hidden arena with seats going up and patrons sitting around the inside, and a gate locked down behind them, and the person that they were chasing disappeared down another tunnel, and that got shut off, and the adventurers were put into the middle of a gladiatorial death match with wyverns and gladiators with spiked chains flinging all over the place. It was nothing short of spectacular. And if they won, which they did in the end, barely, I
love the word barely thrown in there at the end.
Well,
barely.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the fight, it was literally the one character who was up. That character had a hit point, and there was one wyvern left that was screaming and diving at that character, who also had single-digit hit points left. And that character managed to avoid getting hit, and strike the wyvern down, and that finished the end of that combat. And it was literally down to the wire. They could have lost that hardcore.
I love those nail biting.
Oh yeah,
I
it was
love
fantastic. But they got some information they needed, and they were given a reward by the patrons who all loved the show, right?
Of course.
And then cut loose back out on the streets. Most of them, of course, they were given some time to pick themselves back up and get everybody conscious again, and because everybody was lying out, bleeding out on the arena floor, except for that one character who managed to stuck it out to the end. So, I believe that was a rogue character who used uncanny dodge really well to her benefit. It was fantastic. So that would be a DMing moment that I really enjoyed, is that nail biting tension and the excitement and that realization, the dawning look on players' faces as they rush into a situation and then realize, oh, we went about 5 steps further than maybe we wanted to. So I totally baited them into it. And as a player, so one of the games that I'm playing in, the one with the my gnome, run by Sarah Kirchie, we are playing Princes of the Apocalypse. And we have been dive bombed for a couple of sessions by air cultists, and we decided we were going to go pay them a visit. We'd had about enough of that. And my gnome, who's also a spellcaster, the drawbridge is up. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Prince of the Apocalypse, so spoiler alert if you haven't played it and you want to. If you don't want to get the spoiler, you may want to close your ears now. But the Cult of the Air have this giant tower that's off of this cliff, and the only way to get to the tower is to either climb all the way down the cliff and then back up all the way up the tower, or if the drawbridge is down, right? But there's a lip that goes around it. And so my gnome cast a jump spell on himself and leapt across the chasm to the thing by himself, found a way into the building past some stables that had aerial mounts in them. They had griffins.
Yeah, the griffins up top, yeah.
Yeah, and so forth. And I went in and slunk my way in through the tower and just got discovered as I was dropping the drawbridge. And that's when all heck broke loose. There's a giant battering ram. I would call it the reverse battering ram. It's for defensive purposes. So if you're coming to the main doorway, the battering ram swings down and knocks you back out. And the cultists had the door closed and they had the drawbridge up and there was the battering ram, and my gnome looked at that and said, "Oh, I know what I can do." And I climbed up to the top of that thing and I cut it loose and rode it down on top of the cultists.
Nice. Oh, that is awesome. That's a very memorable thing for me as well, because one of my players, she thought she was going to be slick. She said that she was one of the Griffin riders from Waterdeep. And she went in and lied and said that she needed a Griffin because that's how they were going to get onto the tower.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were going to do the same thing. They were getting dive bombed as well. They were pissed off. So she lied and said that she was a Griffin rider, and she even went with her disguise kit. She made a Griffin rider membership card and all this other stuff. She wanted it to be official, So,
sure.
So she got the Griffin, and immediately she fell. She fell to her death. I mean, she failed her check, and she fell to her death. It was horrible.
Don't trust.
But that is no, because it bucked. She didn't know what to do. It bucked on her and it threw her off.
Yeah, my cohort in crime, a gentleman who plays a character named Lunk, refers to griffins as a giant chicken, and he keeps on saying that giant chicken bit me.
Very nice.
So we cleaned out that tower and we have made it now our home base.
Yeah, I mean it is out in the foothills of what is it? Man, what area is that? It's in the foothills.
Next to the Desarin Valley or something like that.
Yeah, Desarin Valley. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
good stuff.
Time. So we'll start wrapping this up here, Chris, and I
cool.
appreciate having you on, especially for a second time.
Absolutely.
And is there any kind of like projects or anything you want to talk about, or you want to give everybody your social media stuff to where they can maybe contact you at
Absolutely.
Wizards of the Coast? And
So
they can
if
drive you crazy to look at their DM guild content, or
if you're looking to reach out to me, the best place is Twitter, where I am at Onnatrix, ONNATRYX. And in addition to that, if you want to see my shenanigans playing, another game that I play in is with the fine folks who run the Maze Arcana campaign on Twitch. They are fantastic fun. And every Monday night, I play in Maze Arcana, the Peanut Gallery, where, again, I play a dwarf, Bard,
nice,
named Dirge de Kundarak, and you can even see me sing online if you catch me on the rare mood where I feel like Dirge needs to sing something, or where Rudy, my awesome dungeon master, decides it is time for Dirge to sing yet again.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Maybe we'll have you down. Maybe we'll have you on down the line again.
Yep. That would be fantastic.
All right, everybody. So thanks again for tuning in for episode 3 of the Digital Dungeon Master podcast with my special guest, Chris Lindsay. Thanks again, Chris. And until next time, everybody, happy gaming, keep rolling those 20s, and keep it savage.